All right. On this episode of the Garlic Market Show, we're going to talk about the social media strategy for WWE events, how they're promoting them, how they're filling them up, how they're staying in front of people. I've got Rob Aurelius from ARCG Media. Rob, thanks so much for being on the Garlic Marketing Show.
Ian, thanks for having me on the show. Truly appreciate it.
All right. And of course, this is brought to you by videocasestory.com. One of the best ways to promote your business is through your customer stories, not testimonials. Learn the difference between testimonials and video case stories, how we can help you collect, craft, and deliver them at videocasestory.com. All right, let's get started. So, Rob, tell us a little bit about ARCG and how you got to start working with WWE.
Okay, so ARCG Media, we're celebrating our 9-year anniversary this month. And, when we first started off, we started off as a talent agency. We were representing local music artists. We were representing, indie actors and also, mainstream actors, like to name a few, Delaney Williams, who has worked on The Wire, also worked in Law & Order, SVU. He plays a very nasty lawyer that people hate, but he's a great person in real life. So, we started helping people, getting verifications on social media, like, getting the verification badge, blue tick on their Twitter, on their Instagram, on their Facebook. And then from there, we expanded because, of course, the opportunities were endless. We didn't know which kind of people were going to approach us. And a few years ago, one of our very first clients was actually a former WWE wrestler by the name Gene Snitsky. So Snitsky was the guy who, we got to thank a lot for putting us on the map, because I met him at a charity event in New York City, and he was with his wife that night supporting the event. He was actually one of the sponsors as well too. And when I introduced myself to him and let him know that actually one of the designers that was showcasing at that event that night was one of my clients, he asked if my client could actually design something for him, because he's a very big guy. He's about 6'7", so he needs custom clothes. So long story short, we exchanged business contacts, information. I gave him my business card. He gave me his. A few days later, he reached out to me, asked me if I knew if I remembered him. And I said, of course I do. I remember you from the WWE days when he had a stint with the WWE for about 4 or 5 years. So anyways, one of the first things he asked me was, hey, I just want to know, what can you do for me? I'm doing movies now, I'm doing commercials, I'm doing all these things. What can you do for me? So I said, well, what we can do is we can help you promote it. We could advertise it. We can do some branding. We could do some marketing. And then the next thing you know, he asked, look, I have a Twitter account and there's a lot of imposters out there. There's a lot of accounts out there pretending to be me. How can we actually get people to know that I am the real Gene Snitsky? So what I told him was, well, we could help you get verified. And I reached out to Twitter, and less than 48 hours later, he was verified on Twitter. So after that happened, he actually announced to all his followers on the Twitter platform that ARCG, at the time we were A&R Collective Group. So he had announced that A&R Collective Group had helped him get a verification badge. And he reached out to a lot of his professional wrestling friends and friends in the entertainment industry and told them, if you guys ever need any kind of assistance as far as marketing, promotion, advertising, whatever the case may be, reach out to my buddies at ARCG. So from that point on, when we started getting all those types of, all that type of volume, where people were reaching out to us from different type of fields, we started offering even more services. So now we were not just catering to music artists and to actors. We started, representing athletes. We started representing people in the entertainment field, in the, in the sports field, as well too. So, as the years went by, we just started offering more services. And then as of 2019, we decided to go the media direction, because we started covering live WWE events. So we covered a few WrestleManias. We just covered, our most recent event that we covered was WrestleMania here in Dallas, Texas, WrestleMania 38. It was a 2-night stupendous event. And we also covered WrestleMania last year as well too, which is the first 2-day event. And then we also covered SummerSlam, which was Allegiant Stadium in Vegas. And in 2019, before the pandemic, we covered WrestleMania in MetLife, which was in our home turf of New York City.
Nice. And so when you say cover, what are you doing on social media to cover it?
So what we're doing is, leading up to the event, we're partnering with the WWE to promote the event, to try to sell tickets, to let people know what's going on, to showcase the matches that are happening for that event, letting them know, and the thing is, there's always some types of rumors, there's always some type of the dirt sheets are always saying that something's going to happen, someone's going to come back, or whatever the case may be. We help tease that a lot. We, as a marketing strategy, try to get people to show up. So for example, earlier this year, it was announced that Cody Rhodes, who used to be a former WWE wrestler, was leaving AEW, the company that he created. So when he was parting ways with AEW, one of the first things that people thought was, well, where is he going? Is he going back to WWE? So for months leading up to WrestleMania, the speculation was Cody Rhodes was going to come back to WWE. So there was an event in New York City that, Cody Rhodes was not a part of at all. But just to make sure that we got people to come to the event, we kind of teased that there was going to be in the main event that night with Brock Lesnar fighting a mysterious opponent. And everybody thought it was going to be Cody Rhodes. So that night, of course, we didn't get Cody Rhodes, but it did get people buzzed up and energetic and energized and whatever. And then once April came along, there was a wrestler named Seth Rollins who didn't have an opponent for WrestleMania. And everybody kept wondering, who's going to be his opponent? Is it going to be Cody Rhodes? Is it going to be Shane McMahon? Is it going to be a returning Bray Wyatt? And then finally, the first night of WrestleMania 38, Cody Rhodes came out, shocked the world. People always say things like never say never. This is a guy who left 6 years ago, started his own business, kind of like left on bad terms. But somehow in a little bit of a few months, he was able to, fix all those issues that he had with the WWE, agreed to a deal to come back. And now he's been with the WWE ever since.
Nice. And what was your strategy around helping them with all this? How did you maintain it, stay focused, metrics, distribution?
It's all we talked about for months. We started something called the ARCG WWE Tour. And what that is it's just, a showcase of events, live events, televised events that ARCG Media attends every year. Last year, we probably covered, I don't know, maybe almost about 20 events last year. This year, we've done about maybe 5 or 6 already. And what we do is, we go to the shows, we promote the local shows, we give people media coverage of what's actually happening. Some people don't have TV, some people don't have, cell phones or whatever the case may be. All they have is probably a laptop or whatnot. So what we do is we actually upload content of what's happening at the event for people to see. And, of course, there's other media companies out there that are doing the same exact thing. But what makes us stand out is that we have a very deep relationship with the WWE because I happen to do a lot of social media management for a lot of the professional wrestlers that are currently signed to the WWE. And I've also worked with them on outside projects as well, too.
Nice. And how were you guys measuring success? What did you do to measure success in this?
Just stayed in the loop with WWE. We hyped it up a lot. We spoke a lot to people. I was definitely being interviewed on certain podcasts, being asked questions. Do you know if this guy's coming back? Do you know if that guy's coming back? Do you know what the company is planning to do in the next few months? I get a little bit of intel and, I don't want to sell my information to the dirt sheets because that's not the reputation that I want to have. But if the right person comes along and asks me, what do I predict or what do I think is going to happen next? I give them, whatever is on my mind at the moment about, what may be happening next.
Nice. And tell me about, how you're promoting these events, and keeping them in front of mind. So, you're in the end, you're trying to get butts in the seats, obviously get viewers. What type of content do you see working the best right now?
Content that's promoting what is going to happen next. Content that is, pretty much, WWE is very good with storytelling. So sometimes a lot of their storylines can last a few months, sometimes more than a few months, almost a year. And what they do very good is with the storytelling. And what we try to do is we try to sync in with the WWE with the storytelling to let people know, what's going on, what to expect next. Some people may not like the current storyline, but what we try to do is we try to keep people interested in it by telling them, look, you may think that this is going to have a different outcome, but it's actually probably going to have the outcome that, you actually been thinking about for a while. So, we like to throw a lot of hints out there. We like to throw a lot of teasers and, just a lot of publicity,
Nice. And, when you're doing this, are you doing interviews? Are you repurposing a lot of content? Are you making a lot of original content?
Yes. We're doing, there's interviews, producing a lot of content. There's content that, WWE has actually approved. Now there's a lot of things going on out there where, copyright infringement and whatnot. And even though you sit at an event and you record, or you may, share like an image or footage of whatever is happening, you got to make sure that you run it by the WWE first. You know what I'm saying? Because if it's content that, actually is better than the content they put out, they either want some type of credit for it, or they want to actually work out a deal with you and be like, hey, look, you let us share that content, we give you some publicity, and vice versa.
Nice. And so, on the back end, how are you, you're monetizing this, what's the win for your agency in this too? Because obviously you're promoting WWE. Is WWE paying you directly? Do you get a percentage of it?
So what I do is, usually the talent, I work a deal out with them, and depending what may be going on, sometimes what they do is they either pay for the expenses, as far as traveling, lodging and whatnot. Sometimes I get a media badge, a press badge, or sometimes comp tickets to attend the event. And, depending what kind of event it is, for example, if it's like WrestleMania is a big deal. So what I try to do is I try to make sure that all expenses are paid for. So when the time comes, I have, hotel covered, I have, tickets, entrance to the event, and any kind of other events that they may have during that week. Because the thing is, leading up to, for example, they have something called WrestleMania week. So for example, if WrestleMania is that Saturday or that Sunday, Monday is the beginning of WrestleMania week. So from the very beginning of that week, they have a lot of press, they have a lot of media, they have a lot of stuff that's going, a lot of events, a lot of things that are engaging with people. For example, now, this past WrestleMania, they just had, for example, I'm not sure if you was aware of this, but The Undertaker, who's a legendary wrestler, was finally put into the WWE Hall of Fame. So a few days before WrestleMania, what they did was they actually did a statue reveal. So they actually immortalized The Undertaker. Now there's a statue of him that they created. So they actually had the fans come out to that event to see The Undertaker, get the first induction into the WWE Hall of Fame, and also to introduce the new statue to the fans. So, we go to those type of events as well too, to give it a lot of buzz, to give it a lot of coverage, a lot of media. So, to answer your question, when you said what makes us, where does the ARCG win? When people are looking up companies that have intel, or companies that just have great content and great footage, I want people to see ARCG Media as one of those companies that, is aligned very well with the WWE.
Nice. So who else do you work with besides the WWE?
Well, WWE is the only company we work with. There's other companies out there. There has been interest in the UFC, because a few years ago, there was a guy named Don Madge who was, I think he's from, if I'm not mistaken, from South Africa. And he was making his UFC debut, and he wanted to get as much media and as much coverage about it, as much press. So there's definitely been interest in the UFC. There's interest in the near future to work with other sports, for example, like basketball, football, baseball, the XFL. XFL is something that we're very interested in, because I do have some type of relationship with a lot of the endeavors that The Rock has. Like, I do promotions for his tequila, Terramana. I've also been doing promotions for the XFL. So we're looking forward to, in the near future, also covering boxing. But as far as the only professional wrestling company that we want to work with is the WWE, because I have also been invited to be part of the WWE community. So what the WWE community does is they go to schools, they talk to kids, they talk to them about anti-bullying, they talk about a lot of causes, they help people in need, they cover the Special Olympics, they work very good causes, like, for example, Breast Cancer Awareness Month, Pediatric Cancer Awareness Month as well too, so things like that.
Nice. Well, that's awesome. Very cool. So where's the best place to follow you?
Best place to follow me is my Twitter, my Instagram and Facebook, and my TikTok, all at Rob Aurelius. Also, ARCG Media. You can follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at ARCG Media.
Awesome. All right. Well, Rob, thanks so much for being on the Garlic Marketing Show.
I appreciate it.
All right. And thank you all for taking Rob and I on a journey. This has been Iron Garlic and the Garlic Marketing Show.